Coach, we have a lot of longtime head coaches in Berks County, and one thing that I've enjoyed asking them is, because I know how many hours you guys put in, if you weren't coaching football, what do you think you would have done with all of that time?
I probably would be a lot better golfer because I would play a lot more golf than I get an opportunity to play. And I do a lot more fishing because I really like, something that I can honestly say I probably haven't been fishing in 10 years, 15 years, and I love to fish. So, I'd buy a boat and I'd start fishing again. That's the retirement plans. Get a place on the lake, get a boat, make sure there's plenty of golf courses around, and play golf every day with Bill Hawes or whoever, and go fishing in my spare time.
What's the biggest fish you ever caught?
Good question.
No cupcakes here.
Probably, a 45-inch northern pike. That was a pretty good fish. I've caught some 35, 40-pound salmon, a 40-pound lake trout. No billfish. I mean, mostly freshwater. So.
And have you ever had a hole-in-one?
I've had 3.
Three?
I've had 2 hole-in-ones and a hole-in-3. One number, what is it? At
We're not talking about Shell's mini golf here.
Willow Hollow, I've had the one I couldn't see because the hole was blind, and everybody started yelling, and I thought they were jagging my wires. Number 10 at the Manor from the Blues. I had out at Willow Hollow, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over the water. I hit my tee shot in the water. Was all ticked off, dropped the ball and hit it and put it right in the hole. God, Marty said, I won't tell anybody if you do. And I just said, that's just a hard way to make a hard way to make par. A week later, I had a hole-in-one on the same hole. So.
Wow.
So that's my 2 hole-in-ones and my hole-in-3.
You started as an assistant here in 1976.
Yep.
What is it about the game of football that you love so much?
Football is just, it brings out the character in kids. You see kids that maybe don't belong in a lot of sense, find a team that, pulls them into the fold, makes them a part of it. You see kids that overachieve all the time. I mean, we make a living with overachieving kids. That thrill of victory, there's nothing like a huge victory at the end of a game, and there's nothing like a defeat at the end of the game. After every win, you're just like sky high, and it takes hours for the adrenaline to leave you, and after every loss, you're ready to quit. I don't know what I would do if we were ever on a team that lost a lot, because my wife always tells me she's learned not to say, get over it. Because that instantly draws a retort from me, and then we don't talk for the next 3 days.
You've been a long-time teacher, so I'll ask you to grade me on a question. I was a guest on the Bulldog Hour, very popular over here, and I was asked to rank the top 4 Wilson quarterbacks. And in order, talking about high school career, I said Chad Henne, Kerry Collins, Shane Stafford, Chris Adams. What grit would I go 4 for 4 there, or would there be some red markers on my exam?
I would probably agree that they were the first 4. Obviously Zach Swyzig has to be in the mix, Sandy Sapola, we've had some others, but Chris Adams was probably the most underrated quarterback we've ever had. He only started his senior year, but it's really funny because his junior year, if we went on performance and practice in the first 2 scrimmages, he'd have started ahead of Kerry Collins.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But Kerry's upside was so much, greater. But Chris just had the touch, and he just, if we were more of the passing game like we are today, he'd have been a phenomenal quarterback.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, Caleb Brown's now at Penn State. So how are you looking at that position this year?
Well, we've had a battle going between Gannon Brubaker and Brad Hoffman. Gannon's been hindered by a pulled hamstring all summer, so Brad's gotten more of the reps. And I would say Brad's he's a bigger kid. He's got a stronger arm. So, right now, he's probably going to get the nod, Friday night. But, there's things he has to learn how to do. He come from a wing T where he was for 2 years. Now all of a sudden he's in a spread offense. You've got to learn to, check down your reads. You've got to learn to throw the ball on time. You got to hit the windows. And you got to learn sometimes you just throw the ball away, because you don't want to take a sack or you can't throw into the coverages. So he's been improving, and, obviously Gannon's still pushing him, and Gannon's healthy now. But, Gannon can also play on the defensive side of the ball. So if Chad's starting at quarterback, Gannon's going to play a lot as a safety, a second or third safety for us.
So. Quarterback's best friend is usually the offensive line. You only have one returning starter there. How are you looking up front, and also on the defensive side too? Because we're going to see some new faces in your front four.
Well, as an old John Gursky, disciple, I like to pound the rock, and I like to stop people from pounding the rock. So, we've had a few injuries early on to a couple kids that we thought were going to start on our offensive line. That was a bit of a setback, but the kids that are in their place, I think if we can get healthy and the kids keep working, I think we can be okay there. How good we're going to be remains to be seen, but we've got 2 stud running backs behind them, so they can make an offensive line look even better if the offense, you keep stressing. All you got to do is get on the block. You don't have to smother them. The backs will do the rest.
Yeah, you mentioned Jones and Leonard there at running back. Do you think Gavin might get overlooked by some people?
Well, if you look at Gavin, he sure doesn't look like a running back. He looks like offensive guard or something, or a fullback, but he's deceptively quick, has great vision, really, runs tough. And there's not a big drop off between Jaden and Gavin. Jaden's a little bit better, a little bit quicker, a little bit more physical, but there's not a big drop off. We feel very comfortable with Gavin running the ball.
If you had to pick your best position group, would it be running back or linebacker? And you have some of the same guys there.
Leonard and Jones both play linebacker
right.
as well. We're really deep at linebacker this year. We've got 3 or 4 guys inside and 3 or 4 guys outside that can all play, they can all run, they all hit. So I would say we're deep at linebacker, deeper than anywhere. Running back, we've got those 2. We've got some nice kids behind them, but not in the same caliber.
You have some real lightweights to open the season again this year. Central Dauphin, Governor Mifflin, Exeter.
Yeah,
How do you feel about that schedule?
We always try to schedule the cupcakes, so Central Dauphin, the number 1 team in the Mid-Penn. Mifflin, who was probably the second best team in the state in 5A last year. Exeter, who has arguably one of their best teams they've ever had. Manheim Central, who, is coming off a tough year and has almost everything back. And then Martin Luther King, who has had a couple D1 players last year and is, wide open run and shoot, or wide open, chuck and duck. So, yeah, it's a tough non-league schedule. It's one of those non-league schedules you could easily go 0-5.
I wonder how that would go around these parts.
Not good. They'd be falling for my head. You got to remember the last coach at Wilson that went 5-5 got fired.
Then John Gursky took over.
No, that was John Gursky. And the stadium was named. Luckily, they rehired him.
Yeah.
They fired him and rehired him the same year.
Yeah.
He was 5-5 in 1975, and that was the only 5-5 season we've had since '64. So.
Well, if I was a betting man, and I am, I'll say I think you'll be a little bit better than 5-5.
Well, maybe I can keep my job then.
I always appreciate your time, and best of luck this year.
Thank you.